Very excited to have you on, Chandler. One of the members here actually works in sales for the company that you also work for, I think, and it's the pest control company. I forget the name, sorry. So he's actually met you before at a sales training at some point. But we're happy to have you on. Thanks for taking your time, Chandler, to join us. And if you just want to kind of start off by giving all of them a rundown, I'd say 10 to 15 minutes, somewhere in there, about your story and all the things you've done. They're all familiar with your YouTube channel. We've been exploring that over the last few days. So I'll let you kind of tell your story, and then I'll transition us to the next part.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on. I'll get my camera on here in about 3 minutes. I am just driving back from a dinner with family, so I'm running a little behind, but I can give you the rundown, and then you'll be able to see me here in a minute. But so that's awesome. We've got a great group of younger people on here. I love to see that. I would say that where I ended up definitely started back in high school. I actually had a lawn mowing business, and I knocked a lot of doors to kind of sell myself and mow lawns. And so through high school, I was making a lot more than my other friends because I had found a way to make money in a different way. And real estate wasn't as interesting to me then as it was once I got into college. So it's awesome that you've got a group here that's thinking about it so soon. But I did that, and then I went and served a mission for my church for 2 years, where I got to knock a lot more doors. And after getting back from that, I was looking for a job, and I actually applied for a bunch of, you could say, normal jobs. I thought it was time for me to maybe not mow lawns anymore and just try and go and get a job like everybody else had. And so I applied to a bunch of different places, and that didn't really pan out very well for me. I was having we were in a college town, so I was having a struggle finding a good place to work. And that's when I was presented with the opportunity to knock doors and sell pest control. And so I took them up on that and picked up my life and moved out to LA, California for the summer in between college semesters. And at first it was a really slow go, but I got a hang of it really quick. And in my first summer, I sold 459 pest control contracts. So we would sell 1-year contracts. And I ended up making $96,000. So I was 20 years old when that happened. Made $96,000 in about 3.5 months. And I came back, and I wanted to continue to live frugally and go that route. And so that's what I did. But I had a buddy from high school, and we were rooming together and hanging out, and his dad had been really successful. And so I had this money in the bank, and I kind of went to his dad and said, where's a good place to put this? And he kind of broke down why real estate would be the best place for me to put my money. And so that's when things kind of started to register for me. So I started looking for a deal. I probably looked for, a whole year before I actually invested in something, and 2 years before I actually owned a property. So the first investment that I did, I actually gave someone a loan. So it was almost a hard money loan, essentially. I had a realtor that was trying to help me sorry, I'm just walking into my office now. But I had a realtor that was trying to help me to find a rental property, and she had some buyers that were having a hard time getting approved for a home loan. And so I went and looked at the property, and it looked like they had gotten a good deal on it. So there was already going to be some equity, and they had, I think it was like $20,000 or $25,000 to put as a down payment. And so equity wise, it was a good play. The problem is they couldn't get financing. So I agreed to lend them, I think it was like $80,000 or $90,000 worth at a 9.5% interest rate. And the interest rate rose every year that they didn't refinance. And so that was the first real investment I made. And we ended up getting that money back. I think it was like 1.5 years or 2 years after. And I got the 9.5% paid out every month. And so that was where I recognized there was a ton of opportunity with real estate. So after doing that, the next purchase I made was a condo. At this point, I had moved up in active selling pest control to where now I was managing a team. And so I was making more money. I was selling better. I was, in a better financial place, but I didn't really increase what I was spending. And so because that was the situation, I continued to invest. I bought a condo, was the next, or I guess the first property I ever actually purchased. And then I got a duplex. And it's funny because after I had the condo and the duplex, that was when I really saw the potential. The duplex I bought was just a really good deal. I picked it up for $96,000, and right away we had the rents at $1,400 on it, and taxes and insurance and everything here were pretty cheap. So it was probably pushing a 15 to 20% cash on cash return. And when I saw that return, I recognized that I just wanted to put all of my money into real estate. So I really buckled down on my strategy. And then every year I just continued to buy more and more real estate. So the next year I bought a duplex and a couple fourplexes, and then I bought an eightplex. And then I ended up buying a 24 unit complex that also had a building for a daycare. And then I ended up buying a couple more duplexes and fourplexes. And then I purchased my 32plex. And then this year I purchased a 15plex. So that was kind of what happened all along. I was continuing to make money so that I could continue to invest more. And in that time now, it's been, 8 years since that first investment. And I now manage about 500 sales reps. So I continue to do that. I own 114 units of rental real estate and a 73 unit storage complex that we purchased this year. And I decided about 1.5 or 2 years ago that I wanted to start a YouTube channel and share that with people. And so that's how we started on that. And that's turned into a really fun thing too. And it's fun because they all kind of build off of each other and work together, and makes it so that every day I wake up excited to do some combination of the three. But that's kind of the story. I don't know what other questions you might have. Hopefully that wasn't too long of a rundown, or I didn't bore you too much, but and I just got to where I can sit down and talk to you now. So that's the rundown though. What other questions do you have?
I have a few questions, Chandler, and thanks for that bio. I'm going to highlight your video here so they can all see you. A couple of just kind of general questions, and then we'll get into some other stuff. So I think you mentioned you started this about 8 years ago. Was that when you did that first hard money loan type investment?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. And so how old are you now?
So I just turned 30.
Okay. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And where do you live now?
I'm in Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Oh, great. Is that where you've been the whole time?
It is, yeah. So with the job, for the first 5 years, I did the door-to-door sales thing. I was having to travel somewhere different. So I've lived in California and in Texas and in Indianapolis. And then in the summer now, I travel for about a month of the year, just going to a bunch of different cities. So, the first 4 or 5 years, I was moving for the 4-month summer and then moving back here for the rest of the year. But now we're, this is where I'm at and probably will be for a long time. And
that's where you were raised too?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I've been there. I've been to Idaho Falls. It's a pretty town. So you have a lot of things going on. You have your real estate investing, you have the YouTube channel. You manage a bunch of salespeople for the pest control company. Anything else that you're doing that would be added to that list?
Yeah. So, most of my time goes to those three.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've messed around with other small businesses. I owned a restaurant for a small period of time, and my brother's a big online guy, so we've done little side things. But right now, between the real estate and my sales organization and YouTube, those consume most of my time. Other than my side passion of fly fishing and driving sports cars, that's where that goes. And then after 6 o'clock, my biggest priority is my family. I've got 2 kids and my wife, and so and to eat up any outside of the rest of that stuff.
Got it. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah, you definitely like your sports cars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that was a new thing this year. And between us, and this is something that I've always pushed with my sales reps and with everyone else, but I never would have purchased the home I'm living in or the cars that I drive if they couldn't be completely paid for with the passive income from my real estate. I've worked hard to spend any active income I have on real estate. And I think one place that I differ from some is I'm a big believer that once you've made the sacrifice and invested your money properly, that cash flow from those properties is fair game to invest in those hobbies and to go that direction. And I think the other thing too, I work hard so that my hobbies kind of overlap. Some people would disagree on this as well, but the cars were actually very beneficial for the YouTube channel, which in turn has helped me build my sales organization and find more deals. So all the way around, they've been a good thing for me. One, because I purchased them in the right way, and 2, because I purchased them in a way that they could be beneficial to my business.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I agree that there's a lot of young people out there who get their first job and they're spending way more money than they should without first building those passive income streams, building a solid net worth and multiple income streams. And then they're in a hole that's really tough to get out of. So you did it the right way. All right. So what I want to do now, Chandler, is we got about 45 minutes left. What we normally do with a guest, and if this doesn't sound like it'll work for you, just let me know, but we'll generally turn it over to a Q&A session and have the members ask you questions. The way that seems to work best is for them to put a question in the chat. But I'm wondering on your phone if you can see the chat at the same time. I think you can.
Yeah, I'm able to see it. That's no problem.
So they'll just type in some questions, and you can just start at the top and work your way down. The one downside to doing it this way, though, is that there isn't a lot of back and forth because the members are just typing; they're not talking. So if it gets to a point where you just feel like you need a break from talking, or you want to hear someone else's voice, then we can definitely switch it up a bit. But yeah, if you're comfortable, you can just first read the question in the chat and then go ahead and answer it to the best of your ability, move on to the next one. And that seems to work pretty well. So if you're up for that, that's what we'll do right now.
Awesome. Well, can you guys still see me? I'm in the chat right now. I'm not sure if you can see.
We can still see you. Yep. Perfect.
Let's see. Has your real estate investing changed at all with the seller's market and the possibility of a bubble burst in the next few years? This is something I get questioned on a lot. I think that it has changed in that deal flow has become more difficult for me. I've invested more time and money into finding deals over the last year than I have in the past. And it's yielded, well, honestly, it's been harder to find the deals, but I purchased more real estate this year than I have any other year. And when I say this year, I mean 2020. So the biggest reason I have purchased what I have, and again, this is something that I push hard. If I was buying something that the cash flow was slim and it was in a market that maybe I lacked confidence in, I think I would have let off the gas and looked different directions, at least a little bit. But with the deals that I found, they've been extraordinary. You know, the biggest cash flowing deals that I've ever purchased, I bought the 32 plex right at the end of last year, you know, beginning of this year of 2020, you know, the beginning of 2020. And then I bought a 15 plex towards the end and a duplex in between the two of those. So that was a good, you know, $4 million worth of real estate. And the reason that I had so much confidence purchasing it, even with the market how it is and COVID and everything else, is I bought it so far under market. So I immediately had the opportunity to increase rents dramatically, to add a ton of value to the property, so that, you know, even if the market were to dip, which, and I'll talk about that more later, I don't think it will in my area, to the extent it can in some other areas, but I just had a lot of confidence that the deal was incredible. And so I think that's a big thing when there is uncertainty in the market, or when you feel like maybe there's going to be some corrections or dips, or, you know, when we talk about a bubble burst, I don't think we're going to see another 2008, at least not in the same way we did before. And so I'm less worried about that, but I'm in a market where I believe a lot of people are now going to, with some of the COVID issues and other issues we saw this year with big cities, and we're seeing that. So we have, you know, less on the market than we ever have before. Interest rates are low. And so to buy something really far under market with incredible interest rates, I just didn't have a worry with that. And I think that'll always be my answer, is if you have proper reserves and an extraordinary deal in any market, I'm going to be purchasing real estate if it meets all of those criteria. So next question, what are the bad recommendations you hear in sales and or real estate investing? I think a lot of times, I think in sales, it's something that people think that they have to be rude or pushy or overly aggressive to be successful, and that sales could potentially be a slimy business. I think that is very wrong. I think that our most successful sales reps are the people who are extremely honest and straightforward, and they've gotten really good at connecting with people and helping them to understand our product. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that you can't have a bad salesman that's successful. That success just doesn't last, from what I've seen. I mean, you can have someone go out and be very successful being dishonest and lying and cheating. But long-term, that never pays. So I think that's one with sales. When it comes to real estate, lots of people claim to be a real estate investor. Lots of people purchase real estate. That doesn't mean that they've done it correctly, though. And I see that a lot, where just because someone owns millions of dollars worth of real estate doesn't mean that they've done it in the right way, or that if you follow their criteria, that it's going to treat you well or help you amass wealth. I also think that with real estate, like anything else, there can be dumb luck. And that's why it's so important to not get lazy, but understand it, set your criteria, and hold to that criteria when you're purchasing real estate. So just because someone owns real estate doesn't always mean that their advice is going to be sound. And so it's important for you to, do your research. So hopefully that answered that question well. The next one is, your investing portfolio all real estate, or do you put a certain percentage in the stock market? I have always been someone where I'm young and I'm very growth oriented. So I wanted to become a master of one thing and build that. So as of right now, I put a little money in an IRA, I think like $8,000 7 or 8 years ago. Since then, I've been 100% all into real estate. And the reason for that is I truly believe that it pays the best return, bar none. Best tax advantages, best return between cash flow appreciation, principal pay down. There's not a better platform or investment than real estate for your money. And so I've really niched down on that. With that being said, I now am entering a phase of my life where I am very comfortable, and I'm going to continue to aggressively go after real estate. But I have started to take less risks and consider diversifying more, just so that my wealth is a little more spread out, I have really niched down into an area that's, an hour in diameter. And I want to buy real estate more nationwide just to split up my risk. I want to put some more money into the stock market just because now I've gotten the growth and reached the goals that I want. And for me and my family, it's important to hedge that bet or mitigate my risk as much as possible. Now, with that being said, I've done that all the way along with the real estate I've purchased, but I don't think it's a bad thing to have a portfolio with both. But when you're young, I personally think you should pick something and then put all of your time and attention into it and become the best at it. And that's going to treat you better than splitting up your interests and, doing lots of things, but not being a master of any of them, because so many of the deals I've purchased, they've gone as well as they have because of all of the time and attention I've given to real estate. And they wouldn't have happened had I been splitting time on that. What is your end goal with real estate investing? It constantly changes. Before it was, $250,000 in cash flow and to get 100 units at least. That was kind of like my criteria for when I would be okay, when I would be content, when I would be done. And I've kind of come to realize that the journey is the fun part. And once you find something that you're good at, especially with real estate, I'll probably always be investing in real estate. With that being said, my next big goal is to get to 1,000 units and to get my cash flow. Well, one of the big things is just the cash flow over $1 million a year on properties. I'll probably hit that well before I hit my goal of 100 units. So those are both big landmarks for me, but those are the next two things on my radar. Let's see. How's the rental unit business been going? What are some of the pros and cons? Did you purchase it from someone else or buy land and develop it yourself? I've loved it. It's been going great. Even through COVID, we found ways to do really well. I have always stuck to a niche where I buy older properties that are 20 to 30 years old. And I, connect with older owners that haven't managed them properly so that I can go in and add big value, which gives a lot of equity to those properties, but also increases the cash flow dramatically. So that's been kind of my niche. I haven't ever purchased land and built, but that's another one of my goals this year is to start going that direction. I want to start investing outside of the area I've been in, and I want to experiment in the area I'm in with building some property. So, those are both on my radar, but again, I got really good at one thing. And now that I've been able to put the systems in place so that that can continue to run and scale while I can also put my time into other things, that's why I'm now looking elsewhere. But that'll always be my bread and butter and my favorite form of investing and niche within real estate investing. Did you partner on a lot of your deals or scale up quickly and use a lot of OPM? Honestly, I only have one partnership, and it's with my best friend that I've worked with for the last 6 years, and I've known him since high school. I think borrowing people's money and doing partnerships can be a great option for some people. But the whole thing that got me into investing in real estate is I was making so much money with my other job that I needed a safe, good, smart place to put it. And so that's what got me investing. I didn't get investing because I wanted to, make that my main thing and make that how, my job and how I created that active income. So, all of my properties other than those storage units, I own 100%. Now that's kind of, a funny way to say it because all of those I've borrowed money from the banks. I usually put anywhere from 25 to 30% down on all of the properties that I own. So I think that answers that question. Also, if you don't mind me asking, what is your average income per month from the storage unit rental? So on those, we're in a unique situation right now. The gross income was about $8,500 when we purchased it. So net wasn't a lot with our purchase price. We've now got them up to where they're just shy of 11,000 gross per month. And we set it up on a seller finance. And I've only done this with one other property, which was the 24-plex, where I got the seller to finance it. On these, my buddy that I partnered with actually found the deal, and the seller was willing to finance it and give us an interest-only loan for 5 years. So we're cash flowing like crazy on that property. Our goal was to get to the point where then we could pull all of our money out by the time that we finance it, because of the value we've added to the property when we refinance, just with the cash flow created, so that we have enough for the down when we refinance it. And so that was kind of a confusing way to say it, but essentially we put our down payment of 25% down of our own money, but we're hoping to be able to pull all of that out when we refinance, because of the cash flow that will be created from the interest only loan that we have on the property. So when it comes down to it, I believe that property, because of it being an interest only payment, I believe we'll each cash flow about $25,000 a year early on. That will go down once we get on a normal loan, but that's what it's looking like right now. So essentially $50,000 in cash flow after paying those interest payments per year, with where we've got rents up to on it. What type of cars have you bought, and what are you planning to buy next? So I own a Tesla Model 3, a Ford Raptor, a Lexus 350 something, that's my wife's car, a C8 Corvette that just came out this year, and a 2013 Ferrari 458 Spider. I really would like to buy a Lamborghini this year and a Porsche this year. So if you follow the YouTube channel, we'll probably be doing that this year. And what is the end game of your real estate goals? How big do you want to take your portfolio? I think I answered that just a minute ago, but $1 million in cash flow is the first goal. And then I for sure want to hit 1,000 units of rental real estate. When do you get to the point that your passive income covers your living expenses and you're financially free, and say you want to travel? Would you use the extra passive income to travel and active income to reinvest, or vice versa? I always believe, well, here's the thing. This is a trick question, because the right answer is just build up your passive income and then reward yourself. And that's what I've done now, right? I've gotten to the point where all of our travel, our cars, our house, all of that stuff is paid for with passive income. And every dollar of my active income that doesn't go to charity goes, or, that doesn't go to charity or taxes, goes to purchasing real estate. With that being said, my thought process has changed a little bit, because those first couple of years when I didn't have any passive income, I traveled with friends, and the trips you could do very inexpensively, but I don't regret those and the experiences they gave me and the people that I met. So I would put travel into its own category. And I would put it in with the clothes that you wear, the food that you eat, and, those experiences with travel. And I'm not saying go and buy yourself a bunch of Gucci, but I am saying I think that you should buy clothes that make you look professional and put you in a place where you're confident, so that you have that confidence when interacting with people and when looking for opportunities. That's just something that, don't go and buy Yeezys either. Like, you can get a very nice, classy pair of shoes for $100 or $200, and that's going to be great. So don't run with that too far, but be confident, get the clothes you want, and put yourself in a place where, maybe you set aside a big chunk of your money to buy real estate, but you do have a small budget where you can reward yourself to go travel, because I don't regret at all the money I spent on travel before I had a passive income and before I started thinking that way. And I do think that it helped me to connect with people that made me think bigger. And so something to consider when you're making that decision. Also, I see you're building your dream house. How much would you like your passive income to be over the mortgage? For example, does it need to be 3 times over the mortgage in order for you to take action on it? Here's kind of been my thing. I wanted my passive income to be able to give me, and this is my same thing with rental properties. This is my same thing with living expenses, with all of that. We had monitored our living expenses. I knew, I've only got one car that I'm making payments on. The rest are bought in cash. And so I know what those expenses are, like my fixed expenses of my mortgage, my car, other things that we consistently have to buy for our food expense, our kids, that stuff. I wanted to have 6 months reserves so that I could afford my mortgage on my house and everything else that falls into that category, and then have my passive income be in a place where it could afford all of those expenses. So for me, it wasn't like I looked at the house and said it needs to be this percentage. I knew what percentage we need to live, and I wanted to make sure that my passive income always pays for that. And it usually has extra, and that's where the money for the cars comes, and why I've paid a lot of those off. But I, if you're thinking about building your dream home, I think that just knowing where your budget is, like we know what we are going to spend for everything, and we know that it'll be covered with passive income, and then that we have 6 months reserves. I think the other thing that gives me a lot of comfort with that is because of that 6 month reserves rule I always have that for all of my properties. So I think those have gotten up to $37,000 worth of monthly payment in mortgages, and we've got 6 months of those and management and any other expenses for the property, like taxes, insurance, that stuff. And so we've got a ton of money set aside for properties and a ton of money set aside for our personal living before we got to the point where we then made those kind of purchases. So that was a long explanation, but that's how I have structured it so that I'm very comfortable letting my lifestyle inflate, because I know I have the reserves and the passive income to cover it. And then obviously the active income I have has been built up very large, which is a great backup if I ever were to need it. But I'm hoping I've planned so that I never would need to use that, and all of that can go into real estate. Has door-to-door sales helped you to market yourself, your personal brand? What advice would you give to someone just starting marketing? This is a great question. I have found a way that everything I do that makes me money works together. And not everyone is this way, but a lot of people will get good at something and then they'll try to start something else. The biggest reason door-to-door sales has helped me with myself or my brand isn't because I'm like introducing myself to tons of people, but it's because it gave me a respectable income that then I've used in the right way. And so door-to-door sales has given me the income to buy real estate, and the real estate has given me the income to live the lifestyle I want. And because of those things, I started a YouTube channel where I talk about the sales and I talk about the real estate, and that in turn has more people apply to come work for me. It builds awareness of that brand. And, now when I'm trying to hire someone and I find someone that I want to steal from another company or that is on the edge, but I know they'll do really well with me, now I've got all of this YouTube content out there that helps them make an easier decision. And the YouTube has also helped to push people my direction for finding deals in real estate. So it's just this big circle where all of them work together to build my brand and increase my revenue in all of those departments. So yeah, door-to-door sales built on everything, but more just because it gave me the income and it gave me the confidence and the salesmanship to be able to interact with someone and to sell myself and to win them over to my way of thinking, or at least get them to listen to me, to like me. So they all built on each other. The skill set, the income they created, the brand they created, they all work together. What real estate books do you recommend? What type of knowledge should we as teenagers be focusing on pertaining to real estate? I'm sure a lot of you have read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's a great place to start, just to, get you to think different than maybe you have. I love anything from Brandon Turner, all of his books, anything with the Bigger Pockets brand on it is incredible. I really do enjoy a lot of those books. outside of the Bigger Pockets brand. And if you're thinking about some there's like how to get started, like real estate investing for beginners or something is a really good one. There's how to invest in real estate with little or no money down. That's a good one. Outside of Bigger Pockets, I like the book, The ABCs of Real Estate Investing. I got a lot of value out of that. And then one for teenagers, I think The Happiness Advantage is something that you should all read, because I think you need to recognize happiness comes first and then success will follow. That's something that, it's not a real estate investing book, but something I think, especially at your age, I wish I would have read sooner, because that was very beneficial for me. What other states are you planning to invest in real estate? It's a great question. I've looked a lot into Las Vegas, because I think we spend a lot of time there because my wife's family's there. And I like that area. So we've thought about doing some vacation rental stuff there. And the only reason I do that is I would not suggest that be your main investment. It's just something we'd like to experiment with, because we've seen opportunities to get high returns there. Other than that, you know, I've looked into Florida. I've looked into some areas in the Midwest. I've looked into Denver. I mean, I'm all over the map right now doing that research. I think I'll for sure own property in the Vegas area, just because I like to visit my properties and I like to have them somewhat close, but we'll have to see. I'm probably going to stay away from coasts. I'm not a big fan of the East Coast or California or that area. Let's see. Are you a buy and hold investor? Grab any great deals you can find, or do you plan to sell and upscale to large unit properties? Everything I do to this point has been buy and hold with, you know, minor to somewhat major renovations on the front end to add value. I really see things evolving to me just purchasing larger multifamily stuff, because those deals are really, really fun. They've been my favorite deals, and I would love to build more of my team so that we can purchase those nationwide. We're going to see how that goes. That's kind of a goal for this year, and we're still working through figuring that out. Do you plan to sell and upscale to larger properties? Once I've used all the depreciation from the properties, if I can find better deals, I will. Otherwise, I'll probably just hold on to what I have and continue to make good money and pour that into real estate, and maybe do a couple more partnerships with bigger stuff. There's some bigger YouTubers that have wanted me to do partnerships with them and have me find the deals. So we'll see if that happens. Can you talk about Aptiv? Yeah, so this is going to sound more on me pitching it just because I'm very passionate about it. But Aptiv has been the biggest game changer for my life, because it gave me a newfound confidence and skill set to where I use what I learned on the doors to negotiate every real estate deal I have. I use a lot of the paraverbal, verbal, nonverbal communication skills that I got there on my YouTube channel to get people to watch, to keep them engaged. And then obviously the money side, that is still to this day my biggest earner. And so when it comes to Aptiv, especially if you're not sure what you're doing, if you're going to college or you're not sure if you want to go to college, I think it's a great place to see, and if nothing else, learn that skill set and understand how people interact. It really is like this social experiment where every day for 4 months straight, you get to interact with hundreds of people and see how you respond to rejection, see how they respond to your cold call, and how you can get better at making a first impression. And so it's something that, you know, it doesn't matter. I can look at this year making $1 million in equity on a property, and that still won't be as cool as the skill set I acquired from door-to-door sales. So I'm a big door-to-door sales guy. I think anyone that doesn't at least try it in their life is crazy, because you just learn so much. It's such a great way to understand yourself and understand other people. On top of that, it's a great way while you're in college to make incredible money. make great money selling pest control, but you also make great money when you have sold well enough to where you can get a leadership position, and then you can manage teams, you can recruit, you can hire, you can help people work through their struggles in the summer. And the job is really hard. It's the hardest job you'll ever do, but that's what's so neat about it, is you're in that dynamic of, one, dealing with it yourself and learning to help other people deal with it, is you're in leadership, and then having this big reward of a huge financial upside. There's just so much with Aptive that has been a huge blessing for me in my life. And so I do a lot of YouTube videos on that as well. If you want to learn more about it, you can go and hit those up. But I do think you should try a sales job. I think everyone should try a sales job, just because your life is sales. Whether it's a real estate deal or a job interview or anything else, it's going to come down to your ability to connect with someone and to understand them and to ask the right questions. And so Aptive is awesome. And luckily for us, we work with a company that is now the 7th largest pest control company in the nation, and the largest door-to-door sales pest control company in the nation. And so it's been really fun. Hopefully that answered that question. That was kind of broad, but let's see. Just a random question from my curiosity. What are your thoughts on the Tesla Roadster? I think that unless you have money to throw away, it's a big expense, but I definitely plan on purchasing one. I think they're awesome. And if I knew they were going to come out this year, it would be on my list of cars I'm going to buy this year. But I think they're probably a couple of years out still, even though they say otherwise. But such a cool thing. I think that's what's neat about building up your passive income, is then you can buy things that financially don't make sense. And a lot of people never get to that point. I'm one of those that if I have the money from passive income, I'm going to spend it on cool stuff like that. And I think it's a really cool car. When were you able to call yourself financially independent? For me, again, it was that goal of, and if I'm honest, I think my original goal was $100,000 in passive income. I do think when I got to that point, I very much felt like I was safe, because you can live off of $100,000, and that was really, really nice. So I think that's where I felt financially independent. But I love progressing and growing, and it's really cool when you don't do things for the money, but you do them because you love growing and progressing. So 100 grand was probably when I felt that. But since then, that independence of being able to do stuff because I enjoy it, it's been really fun. Do you have someone to look up to or who inspired you to live your life this way? First off, my dad and grandpa, just because the way that the people they were and the work ethic that they had, that mentor because of how well he had invested. And then those are big key players, but then I feel like I've got probably a dozen people that I've read their books that are big mentors. I think, and this is something, especially in your age, that I would push you to. Social media can be a very toxic thing. And I hate when people say that it's a toxic thing, because it can also be a very good thing. And I think just go look at your social media feed and see what it's pushing to you, and say, is what this is pushing who I want to be, or, where I want to end up. And then reevaluate who you follow and the content you're consuming, because that's been a big role for me. When I hop on my Instagram feed, I'm looking at all of these other real estate investors. I'm, looking at Brandon Turner. I'm looking at some of what have become pretty good friends of Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin and Marco from Whiteboard Finance. And like these guys that have similar goals to me, but have achieved more in different areas. And when my feed is filled with that, I'm constantly learning and constantly being pushed. And I really like that. So all of those friends and relationships that you almost have a sense of competition to, but also you look up to, there are lots of those people as well. Let me see. Have you looked into buying cars outright and then reselling them when you're finished, enabling you to switch cars every few years and possibly make some money doing it? Yeah. So both of the supercars that I own outright. Same with the Tesla and the Raptor. Or no, excuse me. Same with the Lexus and the Raptor. Only reason I have the Tesla is that I'm financing it is I like to keep. I did a lot of research on keeping my credit score high, and I'm constantly getting that pulled. Now that I'm doing bigger properties, not as much, so it probably isn't as important. Should probably pay off the Tesla if I'm honest. But I kept it early on to build credit because I had heard it was smart to have at least 4 credit cards, a car, and at least one house that were all on a loan, and then making your consistent payments on those. So that's why I've done those cars that way. But yeah, I would love the channel to turn into something where I'm consistently buying and selling cars just to experience that. One, because the channel, like, people enjoy that, but 2, because it's really fun. I might hire someone to do it early on because I just am not educated enough. The 2 cars I bought from the Stradman, which is a very large YouTuber, and what I made off of YouTube actually also paid for the cars. So that was why that made sense, even though I probably paid market or maybe even above market for those. But yeah, I'd like to go that route. It's lower on my priority list. That's probably why I haven't done it yet. But any advice for a young person looking to house hack for their first property? I think, and this is something I tell people to do, but make sure the numbers still work if it wasn't going to be a house hack. Like, I like to look at it as if it's a 25% down property. The reason I say that is a lot of times if you're house hacking, you're going to get a lower down payment, and it can make your cash on cash return look substantially higher, even though technically you're not cash flowing as well when you do move out. And so just make sure that it checks out to where when you move out, it's a quality investment. Because it'd be a bummer to house hack and then move out and have it be something that's not cash flowing or not doing well. So don't be tricked by the fact that you're getting a lower down. Still hold to those higher criteria. Can you briefly sum up why you quit college? This is, yeah. So one of the biggest reasons I continued to do college was I wanted to be able to tell my kids I did college because I do want them to go to college. I think most people hit a point right after high school where they don't completely know what their passions are and what they want to do. They haven't found a bunch of great friends and relationships. They haven't had certain teachers that, in college, I had multiple teachers that really inspired me, that affected the way that I thought. And so I would tell all of you, I do believe college is a great option. And I think unless you've found something already where 100% this is what you're going to do and you found success in it, you don't have anything to lose by going to college. Just education in general is big. And especially if you're someone that has maybe struggled to self-educate, again, just another reason to go to college. So I got so much out of college. I'm never going to be one of those people that says, oh, don't go to college, because there's a ton of value there. The biggest reason I decided to drop out of college is I have so many passions and hobbies and things that I've been able to achieve my goals and set new goals, and they were consuming all of my time. And so I held on to college as long as I could, but everything I wanted to get out of college, I got out of college. I took some incredible accounting classes, some economic classes, some real estate investing classes. I was a straight A student for a long time through that. And that experience was awesome for me, but it reached the point where I had 9 credits left. 4 of those were for an internship. I just didn't want to do the internship. That was 20 hours for a semester that I already figured out my passion in life. I had all of my check marks that I needed to check off for being able to provide for my family, loving what I did every day, having an opportunity to progress and to be stretched and to do something hard every day on top of all of that. And I figured out exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so it didn't make sense to go and do something that I knew wasn't going to do any of those boxes. It wasn't going to, give me more time with my family. It wasn't going to make me more money. It wasn't going to teach me anything that at that point would have been beneficial for me. And because of that, I just needed to make the jump and be done with it. And so
I would say if you're going through college and, you know, you get to a point where you have gotten the income you want, you've gotten the job you want, you've gotten the business you want, you know, you check off all of your boxes, then it's okay to let go of certain things. And that's one thing that I think is an important principle, is don't just do things because people tell you to do things. Do things that are going to benefit you. And sometimes that means doing things people have suggested that are going to be hard and difficult. Don't quit because it's hard or difficult, but make sure that you know what your long-term vision is and your goals. And as you are able to check off all of those things, be willing to say no to the things that don't check off those boxes. So that's why I did what I did with college. Congrats on 100K on YouTube. Thanks so much. We hit it like 2 days ago. That was an awesome thing, and excited to see what's next. And then, do you have any tips to grow an Instagram account? It's funny. I think my YouTube channel has been successful, and I think my Instagram has started to grow, and my social media platforms have grown because I'm just sharing my life. I'm sharing what I enjoy, and sometimes things hit, sometimes things don't. But don't make social media your like live or die. Is it growing? Is it not growing? I think as you focus on that, it's not a fair criterion. I see it with myself. It's very easy to be like, I should be growing more. I should be doing this or that. But as you are doing what you're passionate about and you're doing something that you truly believe helps people, it's funny because when you switch your mind and that's the focus, it seems like all of those posts and videos and all of that do better. And I'm not saying I don't post sometimes just because I'm hoping to get a following. I'm just saying when I do that, I regret it, and it usually isn't beneficial. It doesn't benefit me in the way that I would have expected. So hold true to what your brand is, and as you do that, I think naturally the growth will come. It's not going to come as fast as you think it should, and so just be patient through that. I think that might have been the last question. We cranked through those.
Yeah, Chandler, I think you did. You crushed them. And I think time-wise, we're about 5 minutes till the end here, so that's perfect. Lots of great answers. I think you went above and beyond answering a lot of those questions and gave a lot of detail and insight. So I appreciate that, and I know the members do too. And kind of an inspiring story, because I think for the you're definitely a self-built, successful business person, and what got you there was just a lot of hard work. And that's an element of the formula that you just have to have. And every member on this group, I think, has that. They're super motivated, super energetic, and ready to put the work in. And a lot of them already are. But success isn't just going to happen. You got to make it happen. And yeah, I think your story was great. You mentioned Bigger Pockets, and I don't know if there's a couple things I want to throw out there. A couple years ago, I was starting to write a book, and I don't know that I mentioned this in the email correspondence that we have, but I reached out to you probably a couple years ago. I'd found a real estate investment calculator that you had built in Excel on your website, I think. And I asked you, I said, can I use that? And you were like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I appreciate that. I've tweaked it a little bit, and I use it, and I've actually shared it with the members of this group. And it's probably a calculator that, I don't know, you maybe don't even use it anymore. It was somewhat simple. I mean, it's not one that I would use for large multifamilies. So I don't know if you remember that at all, but the book I was writing now, is finished. It's going to be published and released by Bigger Pockets later this year. The book I wrote is just for teenagers, and it's about early financial independence and all the topics that kind of fall under that umbrella. Basically, a lot of what you talked about today, a lot of the basic principles of personal finance and financial independence and frugality and passive income and stuff like that. So I'm glad you're a fan of Bigger Pockets, because I think everybody else on this call is too.
That's awesome. Congrats on that. It's so, and it's funny. I feel bad, and I'm sure you experienced this with me too, but as the YouTube channel picked up, I did not know how to handle a lot of the direct messages, the emails, the everything else. So I'm sure a lot has fallen through the cracks, and I'm trying to remember when we had that conversation, but that's really cool. I'm glad that we were able to connect and get that to you. And since then, I usually only send out a pretty basic Excel sheet that still is on my website. And then I also developed an app so that you can do quick numbers on a property right on your phone. Obviously, it's not everything you want to do for due diligence, but we do have the more basic spreadsheet, and the app now that's on iOS and Android is just a free app too. So, but that's really cool. That's awesome. I'm excited to read your book.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. And on top of everything else you're doing, you have an app. So that just makes sense. Crushing it. You got everything covered. I love it, Chandler. Thanks for joining us. Thanks.
If you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You should also go check out our website and Instagram, which are both linked below this video. Thanks again for watching. Now go and get your freak on.